So next at Heinz Field, we had the mighty Steelers from last season. They went 10-0 against 10 useless teams. They're 3 games into the season. They've lost to a useless team. No offense, Bengals fans. I'll big you up in a minute. It's the Bengals' first road win in Pittsburgh since week 8 of 2015. They went to Pittsburgh, outplayed the Steelers from minute 1 and won 24-10 in front of the yellow waving flag bearers of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, the Steelers are now the laughing stock, if not very close to in the NFL. They're 2 losses already this season, and it was an actual quarterback against a tree in Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, it was embarrassing, and I don't know what else really to say about the Steelers. It was embarrassing from start to finish, and fantastic.
I feel like a broken record, don't I? I mean, every week I'm saying about Big Ben being intercepted, useless.
He's 58 times.
It's watching him trying to throw on the runs just incredible.
Yeah,
the ball barely travels.
Yeah, so I'll kick off with a stat about Big Ben because so he got 1 passing touchdown, 38 out of 58 completions, and 1 flop to the floor, which probably caused about a 5.6 on the Richter scale in Pittsburgh. And yeah, it was just a stinker from Big Ben.
I think what this shows you, to focus on the Steelers, is how poor the Buffalo Bills were week 1. It was that Steelers defense, which we know is probably their strength nowadays. You look back at when Big Ben actually could throw the ball and had Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, all the different options. And now, really, you might get the odd play from Juju Smith-Schuster, but they don't use Eric Ebron, really. Let James Conner go, who was looking pretty promising. Of course, he's gone Cardinals. Really, offensively, there's just nothing there. Johnson's out injured. It's just a mess. And they rely on, pardon the pun, stealing no scoring games like they did in Buffalo when teams are not at it. But the Bengals were up for it. They wanted to improve on their week 2 performance because the Bengals were really disappointed last week after the higher the Minnesota win. So then all them turnovers against the Bears was just absolutely ridiculous. And the Bears got away with one last week. We said that in our review, didn't we, Brad? That the Bengals are the better team, but just were making too many mistakes. They were a lot more organised, astute with their play calling, and I never thought I would say this, but they were just too good for Pittsburgh. And it's really worrying times for Steelers if you're losing, not just losing because on any given day you could lose to anyone, but losing convincingly to the Bengals. Shocking from Pittsburgh.
It was terrible. And so you said their defense, I mean, they're missing 2-3 players. They didn't have a sack either on Joe Burrow. And that was the first time in 76 games, and that dated back since 1963. Dated back from 1963, and it's gone. You're finished. As I said, the number 1 defense is now the Carolina Panthers. Pittsburgh have also now lost 2 straight home games for the first time since 2018, weeks 2 to 4. So it is, they're finished. They're done. I'm calling it. They're finished. They're finished.
Yeah, they're not afraid for the playoffs.
Yeah, like obviously we were saying, just quickly, we were obviously saying about Cam Newton going to like New York. I mean, Pittsburgh are another team that could do with like a Cam Newton or a Deshaun Watson, even just for the remaining 15 games of the season, just to try and get them firing. Obviously, their wage budget, I think, is a bit on the floor, but that's why they think they've kept Big Ben on. But if I was a Steelers owner, I would have gone personally in for Jackson or not Jackson, Watson or Cam Newton.
It's interesting that you say that actually about the wages, and that probably actually does make a big difference because there's no justification right now for Big Ben being at Pittsburgh. I really don't see it. He's costing them more than he's winning them nowadays. In the past, the Steelers were really compared. There was that rivalry with New England in the AFC, and it's pretty much what like sort of your modern sort of Chiefs, essentially Ravens, Bills are like. It was the same things at the top, but now the Steelers are so far off it. It's ridiculous. And when it comes to draft time, like in Pittsburgh, like each team talks about the respective target areas. You never hear quarterback even mentioned at Pittsburgh, do you, Jamie? You just think, what? You think, how many bad performances has Big Ben got to make?
Do you not see the quarterback they signed during last season? Obviously, what's his name? Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
if that's the level you're bringing in, the guy
who got cut by Washington
for going to a strip club during COVID. 12 touchdowns, 14 interceptions he's got in his whole NFL career. Dropped
and
already
that's a threat to Big Ben.
Yeah. So, but I will say credit to the Bengals. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Bengals, you did really well. You got an actual.
One thing to add: Joe Burrow, was much more, competent with his trying this week, and I think early on got a real good understanding with Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase is making the good routes, and defenses even as good as Pittsburgh can't handle them. So as long as the Bengals don't make too many turnovers, they could end up with a winning record this season.
As we said a couple of weeks ago, they're going to win the AFC North.